Good Friday evening to you. Chris here checking in live. Wiley report, notes from the field. You know what we're talking about? Holidays. How y'all doing today? How y'all feeling? So today I figured I'd chat and talk about my Thanksgiving holiday experience. This week, I practiced something that I used to talk about with a friend of mine a long time ago, Toya Ward. She's no longer with us. She's one of our ancestors. She was one of my very good friends. Uh, she passed away in 2014. And back when I was living in Florida, working as a librarian at NOAA, I used to have this club. I call it They Ain't Doing Shit Club, and so whenever I would be off work, which would be like sporadically, if we're being real, or on a weekend, and when I say I'm not going to do anything, I would call it They Ain't Doing Shit Club. And I would leave her a voicemail message and say, I'm resuming my presidency of Ain't Doing Shit. And she would have messages where when she was doing the same and not working or, off, whatever, she would call me back and say she was, holding down the presidency of the club since I was working or whatever. And I thought about that this week because this was the first week ever that I took Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off. Um, I just did. I did it because I was exhausted from the qualifying exam saga. um, I also did not feel like I should travel and go see my mom and my brother, not because I don't want to see them, but because sometimes it's a lot in terms of being the caregiver, helper, chauffeur, and all of those things. And when you're already low capacity wise in my emotions from that experience, I feel like I didn't have anything to really give, and I really needed that time to relax and rejuvenate, which really made me feel different. And you might say, why did it make me feel different? Because normally I overgive, over. I'm an over thinker, an over giver, a lot. So to be in spaces within myself and in spaces period in life where I say I don't have the capacity for that feels like, who's that Chris? So it's new. As I was telling my therapist, it's new to be in that space, to also recognize that sometimes you don't have it to give. You can't. I was traveled out, my travel funds were low, and I was like, I can't do it. And I hadn't promised it, so I didn't feel bad. Um, and that ties into my people pleasing tendencies. So I've been facing that in my experiences because when you're not working and you're not taking your qualifying exam until early spring and you're sitting around, you know what you have? All your thoughts. That's right. That's right. Because there's not enough television you can watch. There's not enough streaming shows. There's not enough liquor or drink you can drink, snacks you can eat, or food you can eat that will take you away from you. Because you with you 100% of the time. Even when you with everybody else, you still with you. So, so that's where I was at, this week, as far as, looking at my life and then thinking about my life within the context of past experiences, missed connections, missed opportunities, working too much, um, the ramifications of when you made work the only thing, as if there was nothing else about me other than work, and coming down from that in the sense of trying to figure out, what else do I want my life to be? How else do I want my life to feel? What do I want my life to look like? Who am I? Because work and school, that's great. Those are wonderful accomplishments, but there's way more to me than just that. And trying to figure out, how do you build that part of my life? Because I've struggled with that. I think for me, some of the reasons why I was overzealous and extremely ambitious and over in work is because I remember the years where it was really, really hard. And I never wanted to be back at that point again. I wanted to be in the driver's seat to make decisions for my life. And that's great. I've been able to make some really great decisions. I'm grateful for the opportunity, the ability to take off work, the freedom, the autonomy that I have within my position. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the ability to go back to school, to continue my education, to become a better researcher. But when I think of other goals, I want to be an overall great Chris. I want to be, good in my relationships, healthy in my relationships. Uh, so thinking about that. And so this week I watched television and some shows, I was like, oh, that's cool. Other shows, that ain't really me. But, it's about learning me. I remember, years ago, one of the things Toya used to try to tell me is like, yeah, Chris, it's great to be able to go out and to have a good time and to run your errands. In a relationship, that's good too to have a great bay, but make sure you're good with your own company too. And I think about that, because this probably has been the longest amount of time that I've had to sit in my own company and it's just me in Illinois and learning myself now because I think in some ways my identity, my expression is not the same as it was, you know, 20 years ago, which I think everybody evolves and grows. I think that's the purpose, that's the point in life. So learning yourself, what is it that you like to do when you're not working, when you're not writing a paper, when you're not, doing those, what is that? And trying to figure out what that is. Also getting used to sitting in the silence because it's silent a lot. Even when you can reach out to others, at some point the conversation ends and they go on back to what they were doing, and so do you. So, are you good with you? So, just those have been some of the experiences that I've had this week. Cooking, for myself for the holiday season. I was going back and forth in my mind of what I cook, because I remember last holiday season, not Thanksgiving. I can't really remember how I felt last Thanksgiving, but Christmas, I remember feeling sad, and being that I had just um, I want to say recovered because I don't have another word for it. Um, hang on, I'm changing my background because it's like it's going in and out, and it might still do it, but it really was felt like it was doing it, was getting on my nerves. So I was like, as I was saying, last holiday season, I can't remember what I felt like for Thanksgiving, but I remember for the Christmas season, I felt really sad. And being that I have just been coming out of that level of sadness from, the qualifying exam and being okay with, when I'm taking my exam in January and trying to figure out my holiday plans for December. I was like, oh, I don't want to bring on more sadness with cooking a meal that makes me sad because let's be real, it's different when you're in the holidays, and holidays are family and who you love and you're into your chosen family, and then when it's just you in your house, it's great, but it can also be lonely. And then when you have on top of that the loss of my father, when I realized, what, last Thanksgiving my dad was alive and nobody was thinking that he would be gone, when we got back to this holiday season. And just thinking about that and the concept of it's not just loss in the sense of losing my father. It's also sometimes when we think about our life, we think that the people that are with us or the way that it is, that it's always going to be like that. Sometimes that's taking it for granted. Sometimes that's you just think that it's gonna this is the way that it is. And then what do you do when that changes, when that shifts, when that evolves, when what do you do with that? So those have been like things that have been in the back of my mind that now shoot to the forefront because I don't, like I said, you have time. As they say on the internet, I have time today. You know what I'm saying? You have time today. And so I was like, oh, what will I do? Will I cook? Will I, go out to eat? And then I was like, I don't really feel like Ubering anywhere because here in Illinois, Thanksgiving isn't necessarily a huge holiday, meaning the town doesn't necessarily shut down. It does for Christmas, but not for Thanksgiving. But I didn't really feel like eating out because there aren't a lot of places that I really like that serve like, oh my God, I gotta go there again places. Not really. Or at least not that I knew they would be open on Thanksgiving. Because I like Neil Street Blues. I think that's it, or maybe it's Neil's Blues. I don't know. It's a nice, decent restaurant in downtown Champaign. I know they were having in downtown Illinois, Charlotte. It's good. I know they were having brunch this past Sunday. I saw the advertisement, but I wasn't going, but I saw it and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." But I don't know if they were open on Thanksgiving. So they serve a lot of really good food. So I was like, that's good. Then I was like, oh, maybe I could have Chinese food, but I had that Wednesday. Wednesday. So I was like, I'm not gonna order it again on Thursday. And then I was like, oh, I like Caribbean chicken and rice and peas. I never made it for myself. And then I was thinking, I don't want to mess up Thanksgiving. If I mess up, I don't want to be like, oh, you try something and it bombed, and then you're hoping that something is open so that you can get something decent. Because I also like when it comes to holidays, I like making something, some type of dinner. And I think that's been me, period, because I can remember living in Tallahassee when I was in graduate school. And even when it wasn't a holiday, I would do things on Sunday where I would cook dinner and I put the tablecloth out, even if it was just me. I don't know. I think for me, I was trying to recreate home, but recreate home within a safe environment because I literally was in this group and we were doing an exercise where you could do a narrative of writing. And I was writing about my childhood. And I've said in a lot of different groups, my childhood was great. But I felt like once I got to adulthood, once I got to identity and expression, I needed a whole new set of different parents. I really did because they weren't equipped to deal with me in as LGBTQA as Chris. That just seemed like it was a dialectical tension. And I left. And so for me, when I left, I was always trying to recreate home, but recreate home with the people that loved you for who you are. And sometimes when I think of those experiences from, say, I moved out in 2001, sometimes I recreated that. And then sometimes you didn't. I definitely did, have that here in Illinois and in Florida with my wife. Uh, but this year it's just Chris because she's in Baltimore. So it's like, what do you create now? What does that look like? How does that feel? And sometimes it is lonely because it is. Even when you enjoy your own company, it's quiet a lot, and it's like, what we gonna do now? And then, like I said, you have the downtime, so trying to navigate that. So I decided to cook, and I cooked Cornish hen with dressing, string beans, Hawaiian rolls. I got those from the store. Cranberry sauce. I know you can buy cranberry. You can buy cranberry sauce and you can make cranberry sauce. Is what I'm trying to say. But I didn't feel like making cranberry sauce, so yes, I did have the can, and then I had spiced rum with ginger ale. For the Cornish hen, I've never made Cornish hen on Thanksgiving. I made Cornish hen before, but I wanted to do something different. That whole different, trying to figure out your holiday plan because I have done the holiday meal plans. So I made one, and I decided to spatchcock. Hope I'm saying that right. The hen. I also like African Bites website, and they had a recipe for Cornish hens, but I didn't follow that because I'd used the crock pot recipe. And I would say it was a version because there were several different crock pot versions of Cornish hens. So I did my own thing. By that, I mean I had two Cornish hens. I made one Italian, and I used some Italian seasoning, oregano, basil, garlic powder, onion powder, and Downshiftology, hope I'm saying that right, has a recipe for Greek uh, sheep pan chicken or something. One of their recipes is whatever is a one pan type dinner that you do this like Mediterranean or whatever. And she calls for marinating the chicken thighs or the chicken breast, if you will, in Italian dressing. So I had some leftover Olive Garden Italian dressing. So after I seasoned the hen, I used the rest of the Italian dressing and I put that, all in the it was all in a frozen gallon bag, you know, Ziploc bag. And so I put that in the refrigerator. And then for the other one, I decided because I had jerk seasoning, I would make it, you know, jerk style, but I kind of wanted to make it spicy too. So I had like some smoked paprika. That's not the spicy part, but I had some cayenne pepper and I had the jerk spice. And I have never liked bamboo rum, not bamboo black or the one that comes in the black bottle, but the regular bamboo. I had tried it in March and it's too sweet. It tastes like a liqueur. Like you should be mixing it with some other stuff in a drink. Cause I tried it with orange juice because I had seen a video that talked about it tasted like orange, dreamsicle. It did not. So it was literally sitting on my counter and I was like, oh, I want to marinate for this. I'm gonna try this rum. Call it drunken chicken. It really wasn't, but that's what I did with it. And then I put on Friday, I seared them both on top of the stove, and then I put them over potatoes and carrots and some chicken broth that was seasoned, and put it on there for. I let it cook for like 6 hours on high. It was perfect. It was like it was the fall off the bone type experience, but it wasn't. And the vegetables, the potatoes and the carrots, they weren't mushy. They actually were good. And I made that with dressing. And I made the string beans with red onions and garlic. That was good. And that was my dinner. And I also watched uh, Harriet on Netflix. I want to say that the best thing I can say about Harriet is I enjoyed Cynthia Erivo's portrayal of Harriet. I can't tell you. I just loved it. No, I'm not going to ever tell you I just love the slave picture. I'm just not. I don't have it. Um, but I watched it because I do remember reading different stories about Harriet Tubman in school and in my aunt. Yeah, my one of my mother's baby. Yeah, that's her baby. No, my mother is a baby, but one of my mother's sisters. My aunt had a lot of different novels in her library, and she had a lot of different slave narrative novels. So I used to go to her, over to her house and pick different books. And I remember reading different stories about Harriet Tubman, as well as the life and times of Frederick Douglass. And at one point, I did have this set of slave narratives that was at Miami. Used to have a book festival. I think they still have it, but I remember getting some of those books there too. Because not because I enjoy reading about slavery. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying because I've just read different books during that time period. So I remember those books would reference Harriet Tubman, or sometimes they would reference Frederick Douglass, depending on what it was. So seeing the Harriet Tubman movie, a lot of the things they depicted in the movie, I had read in different historical accounts. That's what I'm trying to say. But it did, at the end, I was like, I'm mad. So yeah, glad glad I got the weekend to take it down. But that's been, my holiday experience. I did have to go to the drugstore today, which I was mad at myself for going to the drugstore. Not mostly because I was just there Monday, and I didn't realize when I was there on Monday that I was running low on contact solution. So to run out, I was like, I was just there on Monday. Didn't think about it because I just knew I had a second bottle, because normally when I buy contact solution, I have two bottles. But I was like, oh, nope, it's not in here. So got to get more of that. So I just used that to stock up on my contact supplies and my um, BioPure, I think it is. I bought that. I was proud of myself for not buying more cookies. I know I love a good sweet, but I think what held me back on that was I still have Oreos. I still have, the Samoas, the Girl Scout cookies, but they make that version of them. It's a coconut and chocolate type cookie that most grocery stores sell. I have one of those, a box of those that I've not even opened, and I still have not eaten the blackberry pie. that I bought. The market that they have here, they sell different pies, and so I got the blackberry one. But I was so full yesterday after eating my food, I did not, get the pie. I mean, I did not eat the pie, but I was like, yeah, this weekend for sure, I'm gonna eat it. And I was proud of myself because I didn't get a whole pie. I got half a pie. There you go. Get your rewards where you can. Because I've been working. I quit doing keto because I just couldn't do it. But I have been doing like Weight Watchers, so staying within my points has been something that I have been really working on, and I did good yesterday, even with my meal because I didn't eat breakfast, so I was like, had coffee, and shout out to Trader Joe's with great coffee because they had butter pecan, not butter pecan, said it wrong, bourbon pecan. And it was good. It smelled really good, and I just tried it because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make some coffee this morning," and I was making it, and I said, "Oh, I'm not open this. Let me try this." And I was like, "That was really good. That was almost as good as Wake Up Blend." And the sad news is, I don't know if that was just a holiday special. I start laughing because they used to sell this version of smoked butterscotch and they have stopped, and I've been very upset because I have never found it again. So I was like, "Oh, this is good," but I was like, "I don't know if this is just one of those things that they just did a one-time thing and you can't." I haven't even bothered looking to see if you can find it again. And like I said, I just opened it. So I was like, I'm gonna drink it sparingly because it'll make me very sad if I find out that was just a once. Um, I hate when they do that with stuff you like with coffees. Don't just make it one time and then never make it again. Stop that. But as I was saying, holidays, just getting through the holidays, I think can be a wider array of experiences. Because it's the holiday season, you have all of these holiday movies that talk about families, that talk about closeness. And what do you do when that has not always been your experience? Because, like I said, my mother and father were good when it came to, childhood and through finishing college. But after, when you add in a wife or a partner, uh, that's not, and it's like you can't really separate yourself. That's what they would want you to separate, and you spend holidays there and leave who you love someplace else. And which would be so odd to me because that's not how they experience the holidays at all. And I'm like, is that because you know, you're heterosexual? And I remember having that conversation with my father in 2015. And he was saying that he would feel the same way, even if I had been married to a man, which which really just blew my mind. It just, so I was like, so I don't even get to have a life. That's what you're really saying. The only life is you. And I'm like, that doesn't seem healthy. As much as I love my parents and now with my mother and my brother, I'm like, I love them, but they're not my whole life. I just don't think that's healthy. So that's what I think about when it comes to holidays. What is an acceptable amount of time to spend with them and to still be whole for me and to still, you know, live my life? And I don't really see myself anywhere. And I think the biggest struggle is not just seeing it differently than my mother or my father sees it. It's that I realized that there were a lot of years that I compartmentalized my life by choice because that's what I had to do. I think about when I say that's what I had to do, I think about that in the context of jobs. And my life bears the scars of that. And now I'm at a space where I don't want to only be some half version of me for any amount of time. I want to be all of me in every single space all the time. I don't want to be this separate. That doesn't make me feel comfortable. That doesn't make me feel excited. That makes me feel fake. And I'm at the point in my life where I can't be fake. It feels horrible to me to be fake. And I'm like, either you be all of yourself or none of yourself. And I just rather be all of myself. And I just feel like when you think about life period, not just holidays, surrounding yourself, surrounding, filling your life with people who love you for real. All of you, the messiness, because I was just in a group when we were talking about the messiness of our lives, and of who we are and our feelings. Um, and I might be paraphrasing because I'm not saying everybody's life is a complete mess. I'm just saying, it can be complicated when we look at our multifaceted uh, experiences within ourselves, within our feelings, and how it isn't just tight, neat boxes of perfection. It's not. It is dialectical tensions. It is complexity in some areas, and in some areas it's not. Some areas it's not, but in some areas it is. But embracing all of that, and then when you add, relationships with people are varied. They are, even when they are being their best self. So you bringing all of that into a space, all of that into your relationships and being that. And then when you think about like healing and evolving and growing, or just experiencing life, and the ways that life throws so many different things at you, or whether you were the person that caused a thing to be thrown at you, it doesn't matter. Either or, it can feel like the same way. It doesn't really matter whose fault it is, or even when there is no fault. It's just you dealing with all of that. And I'm just at the place where I'm like, look, if I can't be the real me, the authentic me, this ain't the space for me. And I know that, I've had to live with the ramifications that I have worn masks. And in some cases I chose to wear them, or some cases I chose it because it felt safer. It felt safer to wear a mask than to be my real self. Or I was only that because I thought that would please the other person. And now it's like, but I'm not pleased. So what's that about? And I just can't do that to me anymore. So that's an odd, different feeling. And I know some people, they've never experienced that. They've never experienced that at all. So explaining it can be different. And here's how I was thinking about that. I was watching Harriet Tubman, and they had a character, I think it was Janelle Monáe's character, um, in the movie. And when you like reading, because I always like read about how they create movies, and they were saying that her character was the character that Janelle uh, Monáe she played a free woman. That her not free women, but the character she played in the movie was not a part of history, or at least the history of Harriet Tubman. I won't say it's not a part of history; it's just not a part of Harriet Tubman's story. But I think about that in terms of the concept of freedom, and I think about, I can't remember the writer that was writing that we read in my class, and she asked 4 different friends what they thought about freedom. And then I also think about um, my spiritual parent, Baba's husband, L, and how L was talking about freedom as well on some posts. I saved it, but it would take too long for me to scroll through my phone to figure it out. But to figure out where it is. But the point is, I bring it up, and I'm not talking about slavery. I'm just saying, in the context that some people are always free and some people are bound, and some people were bound and then now they're free, and then some people have never been bound, and how you never really think about that. How, I think about, like, one of the things I loved about when I talk about one of my first relationships with my ex, not their relationship, but with her mother, Mama Ernestine. Most people who've listened to my Encouraging Your Spirit podcast have heard me talk about Mama Ernestine. But Mama Ernestine, she was always loving. I don't remember a time when she was ever unkind to me. And I think what blew my mind most during that time of my life was that she and her mother and family were equally as religious as my own family. But their mindset was the opposite of what my parents were. And you couldn't say that they grew up differently, because they didn't. You couldn't say that, well, they believe. No, they didn't. I mean, you could say, well, one was Baptist and one was Christian, Methodist Episcopal, But I mean, Mama Ernestine could have been the head of parents for friends of lesbian and gays. So it would just be like I didn't understand how you could have certain people at that time. I didn't understand how you could have some certain people that were extremely accepting of people, and then that had the same background as your parents, but were extremely accepting versus people who were not, who had that same background and people who were not. I don't know. Sometimes these days I think about it in terms of our mind and the idea of being bound. And then just the idea that sometimes it's projections. Some people who don't struggle with their sexuality or don't have any issues, whatever they may be. I'm not saying that that means my parents are gay. I don't know. I really don't. I don't. Been some questionable things that they have said in terms of their beliefs that I'm like, I don't know. And my dad's gone, so I can't ask. And I didn't ask then. So there's that. But my ultimate point, I really got a point in terms of, bound and free, and just how certain people, when we think about like our ability to believe, to know something, to know someone exists. I was just thinking about that this week, about how some people are always free. Some people are always good with the fact that you should be all of who you are. You shouldn't hide. You should be that. Whether that's you and you're gay, you and lesbian, you as trans, you as queer, you as heterosexual. Some people, that's never been something that they have had to struggle or have had to not understand. Just like in the movie, this particular character had always been free. And it wasn't just her, there were other people, because I think later in one of the speeches that the Cynthia Erivo's character was giving, she was talking about how some people have always been free. And I thought about that again, and how it is a contrast when you think about that particular time in history, where there are people that were always free versus people that, in order to be free, they literally had to run away and leave their family, or hope that they could go back and get them, or never find their family. And although we're talking within the constraint of the movie in terms of slavery, you could really take the constraint off and talk about that in terms of freedom to be who you are, period, in life. Like how some people have always felt that level of freedom and have never struggled with that, which is exactly what I'm saying. And other people have found that it is hard to be that. And I don't have any answers to solve that for you today. But, I was just thinking about that in terms of how freedom shows up, specifically when we think about the holidays, and how sometimes with people the issue is freedom, sometimes the issue is not freedom at all, sometimes the issue is home, the complexities of what home means, the complexities of love and capacity to show love, to be loved, to have love in your life, uh, the lack of capacity that others have, the toxicity. Sometimes it just depends. It depends on who you ask. It depends on the person and what they got going on. And I'm not judging any of it. I'm just saying, when we talk about notes from the field, the holidays, it's a wide array of experiences. And there's also when it's blue because your loved one is gone. Because I went to a grief group the week before last weekend, and it was one of those they were offering, and I think I had signed up, not because I don't go to grief group, but because I wasn't sure that I was going to get to go to the main uh Wednesday night that I normally do, because I think that was a long Wednesday. And I'm pulling up my phone because it was a candle memory, and I saved it, and I thought about that it was good. And I hope I have it. But oh yes, so it was a holiday candle ceremony where it says we light this candle. It was talking about courage, memories, determination, and love. So it was saying we light this candle for you, for your courage, You faced everyday challenges with such courage and strength and are an inspiration to us. We want you to know that we will always love you. There was memories. There is so much we will remember. Um, your smile, your laugh, all the good times. We light this candle for your determination. The example of your life has made a difference in our lives. Thank you for your strength and determination, which will always be an inspiration to us. And then the candle for love that says the specialness that we have shared with you can never be replaced. Our love for you will shine as brightly as this candle. We will pass that love on to others. We want you to know that we will always love you. So that was courage, memories, determination, and love. And I think too, but I also think about the irony of that, about how that's not just that those words are not just important within the context of when somebody has passed away or when they're no longer with us. It's the courage, the memory, determination, and love to be here in this present life. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking about that this week. And maybe it's because the brother had time with all his thoughts this week. But I'm like the courage, the determination, the memories, the love that it takes to live your everyday life. Of Black Studies by Joshua Myers is a great book. I've just started reading it. And one of the things that it talks about in terms of epistemology and existence is that it talks about what will the subject of your life study be? And think about that in terms of when we think about who we are, who we're becoming in our studies, or who we are in our life, in our everyday life. Who do we show up as then? And are we good with that? And I think for me, when I think about my life in terms of the compartmentalization that I have done in the past, the masks, the times that, real talk, I have been the villain in other people's stories, or the times where I lied, I was disingenuous, even if I had a reason, it doesn't matter. I caused harm. I caused harm to others. I've caused harm to myself. And as I live with that complexity in the terms of who is Chris Wiley and who I am growing and trying to be better, be a better version of myself each and every day. What does that mean? What does that look like? How does that feel? How will I show up in my life for me and in my life in relation to others? And I think about that this week, and who do I want to be? And I do want to be a better me. And thinking about, well, what actions does it take to do that? The level of planning that it takes. And that's why, it gets to the point where you're like, you know what, I got to get a different plan together, because life isn't just becoming Dr. Wiley. That's good. I still want it. I will be that. I'm going to be that. But it isn't just the life that I create scholastically or work, or even on a podcast. It's the whole of who we are in our process through that, and the courage and the memories and the determination and the love that it takes to create that. And that's what I've been thinking about. I hope what I have said makes sense. I'm just sitting here thinking and growing and talking on the internet. I'm going to light this cigar and watch me some TV and heat up my leftovers. I've definitely thought that for the rest of the uh hen, whatever I don't eat today, I'm gonna turn it into soup, because I love a good soup. I love good soup. So I was thinking about that. Because I've learned I can't eat leftovers past 3 days. Even the best of things that I made that were not holiday meals, by the third day, I'm like, And I don't like to throw away things, and I don't feel like putting it in the freezer. So I'm like, oh, you can, whatever's left, you can make into a soup. And that's what I'm gonna do. But anyway, thanks for listening. I hope that you are having a great day, that you are continuing to enjoy your holiday season, that you are taking care of you. And if nobody has said to you that they love you, come here. I do. And I'm wishing you all the best. Peace. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good one.